It's been a while, but in this video I'm showing you how I made this coffee table from these pallets that I found. This video is making the legs. First step was to just plane the timber, and I'm doing this with a Bosch power planer. Right, we're slowly getting there, but what I am going to do, I'm going to cut most of these pieces down to half. I may run them through the table saw to get them square. Reason being, you can see one side is ever so slightly higher than the other. Right, so I've roughly cut these pieces down. They're planed near enough to where I want them. I've roughly drawn up this technical diagram. Yeah, these are the pieces I will need, and I've worked out the angle. 17.5 inches high, that's what I wanted for the legs. You'll realise when you go and measure your sofa, you don't want it any higher than the cushions. What I've got here is a digital angle finder. Honestly, amazing bit of kit. Very clear, very precise. Right, there we go. Not perfect at the minute, but I'll show you roughly. There may be some deflection in the blade. There could still be a bit of warping in the wood. I will sort that out, but this is just the design I wanted. Completely up to you if you want something else. So I've got the bottom of the bottom leg here, and this is the top of the top leg. What I'll do, just to give me a rough indication of where my screws can go, draw some light marks like that. That one there. And then I want it on the bottom of the bottom leg. I've just gone for 3 screws in about this position. Do not drill straight like that, because the legs are at an angle. So once you start, try and follow roughly that 15-degree angle we'd had on there. I'm using a 4.5mm countersink bit because I'll be using 5mm screws. Follow the angle. There's my screws, and they follow this angle. Right, so here's the legs, plain down, sanded. They look amazing. This is how I wanted them. Problem is, I tried them. I'll show you a picture now. In my opinion, too high for a coffee table. So what I'm going to do is cut them down by 3 inches. Before I move on, I was going to buy a wood filler, but sticking with the theme and recycling this, I've taken out some of the sawdust from my vacuum. I'm going to mix that up with some glue. We're going to see how that looks. I wasn't sure, but I am actually going to cover these screw holes. Right, I'll be honest, it looks like crap. Probably would have been better to use fine sawdust if that had worked. You can see it dries a lot darker. I can see all the chunks and whatnot. The small bits, I've sanded this one. You can barely tell, but not good enough. I'm going to end up probably planing some of this to get it off quicker. As you know, glue does dry quite hard. Right, that was probably a good half hour. I'm happy with it as it is. I don't want to do too much because it's taken away from what the project actually is. I'm going to use a chamfer bit on all edges. I also want one of my little barcode stickers here in the bottom, so I'll have to have a little cutout for that. And I also need to drill for the bolts that go between the legs and the table. I've done a little test on this piece here. It is quite nice. I might go a little bit less. There is the bit I'm using, one of those. It's completely up to you on the positioning that you like. I've had a look. I'm going to have mine 6 inches in from the ends. So I can line those up, get some holes in here and drill through. Now you do need to think if you're going to screw to make sure you've got enough space for your drill. Hopefully that's in the shot. You can get your drill in there unless you are going in from the top and then cover it later, which I probably wouldn't recommend. I've got these bolts. So I've got an M8 bolt here and this is a threaded insert. So I'll screw that into the tabletop. This goes in through the bottom of the leg and just tightens up like that. I've decided I'll just go for 3 bolts. That should be strong enough. Should. So let's find the center. It would have been better to do this before I'd done the edges. Try to remember these measurements if you want it to be not universal but to work either leg either way. Try to get them exactly the same. I marked up the second one. Exactly what I'm saying, why you need to see if things do fit. I can't even drill those from here. It will have to be from the top. I did want to avoid tear out, but I can just clamp something there. What I'll do is using a square or something, or try to follow these lines round. I made another mistake. We've got the holes in the legs. The bolts do fit. The bolts are going in from here, which isn't a problem. But I can't actually get the drill in there to make this bit bigger to conceal the head. Bring that there. I can't get the drill in and I wanted this to be sunk in a little bit. At this point, I'm just thinking about a lot of coffee and laughing off all these mistakes. And I know some of you will have a field day in the comments. Now I'm just lining up the legs to where I want them and then marking the positions onto the bottom of the tabletop, just using a pencil. That will pop through there. And this bolt needs to be cut down, but there we go. Something like that. Right, it's the moment of truth. It's now time. I've sanded these down. I went 120 and then I went 180. Completely up to you what you're going to go for. Me personally, I wanted this face here and the other side to be black. Right, the edges will need cleaning up. I can have a sand or rerouter. That is what I imagine in my head. I'm applying Osmo top oil for this project. The first coat is recommended with a brush or roller, but it would have been a bit tricky doing this on the legs. Lastly, I'm just fitting my sticker here and then bolting the legs onto the table. So that's the legs done. I'm quite happy with them. That is what I was picturing in my head. If you have any tips or tricks, let us all know down below. The only things I can say is take your time to think about how high you want your table. You don't want to be cutting it down like I did have to afterwards. Think about how you're going to fix them to the table. Now, this method works quite well, even though you can still see the bolts, something I should have thought about. Ideally, you don't want to go in from the top. And lastly, it's a little bit rocky because of the shape, but it's not too bad. So I hope you enjoy that, and don't forget to check out the other videos on my channel.